Deandra, there is a recording available, so if you did miss anything, you will be able to go back.
Beauty. Thank you, Radha.
You're welcome. Welcome everyone to the youth panel. We're just going to take a minute to let people trickle in as they choose their breakout rooms. And yeah, let's start at 10:25.
Nisha, I can barely tell whether that is your actual background or a Zoom background. I love the colors.
No, that's a real background. I
Cool.
switch out the stuffed animal every few days. The kids really love it when I visit their schools.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I've been performing for 16 months online. You know, like other people were like, I'm going to work from home. And I was like, I'm going to do shows from home. So, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, Kabir, that was the first thing I commented on too. Like, I need to step up my Zoom background.
I'm in the basement hiding from the kids, so there's no.
Honestly, like after the first 2 or 3 seconds, it doesn't even matter. Like no one cares.
I mean, like for the rest of you guys, like this is probably, it's better than this one, and so that's fine because this is a very lived-in house, as you can see behind me. That's my work desk, and there's a reason why that's my work desk, because this desk is usually a lot tidier.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing. I don't know. I just think like those folks that have like the show home type homes where you don't see any of their stuff is so suspicious.
I tried so hard for the first like month of me living there, and then realizing, nope, that's not possible. So it's just, here's paper.
For sure.
Paper is everywhere now. All right.
I think also like cords. Like, who are these people who don't have cords to anything?
I still don't understand
like,
it. It is a mystery to like every IT professional in the world. Is cord management is like a whole subject of discussion at parties.
Yeah.
That is the thing.
Yeah.
So I have failed you, Marie Kondo, but that's okay.
It's a lie.
Okay, awesome. It is 10:27 now. Let's just start. We have all our youth panelists here, and I'm excited for them to introduce themselves in a second. My name is Radha, and I am the moderator for this panel. Just a quick introduction. I volunteer for the Next 30 as well. And my relationship with Alberta is that I moved here about 5 years ago from India, and I wouldn't be able to place Alberta on a map before I came here. But now I have a degree from here, all my network, my connections, my home, everything is here. So I'm very excited to be involved with a group like Next 30, just having conversations about the future of this province. I'm going to invite the panelists to introduce themselves, and in your introduction, a little bit about yourself, your background, but also what is your relationship with Alberta? Deandra, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Thank you, Radha. Oki, Nishokua, Nistokoki Dopsargatsi, Nimhtoto Agano, Nimhtotitapi Mamyoix, Ki Agapugax. So good morning, everyone. My name is Deandra Brewstead. I come from the Blood Tribe. Currently, I'm a sitting councillor with our chief and council. Prior to that, a few years ago, I was hired on as a climate change coordinator. And then before that, I had gotten my degree in environmental sciences from the U of L. Yeah, so I really push for grassland restoration and protection, community-led initiatives and Indigenous-led initiatives around holistic supports. And just really trying to help support my own community and the struggles we face within colonization. The recent discoveries of the unmarked graves, the mass graves, it was really disturbing, and it really hit our community hard, despite it not being a shock, despite it not being a surprise. So we've been feeling that for sure for the last month. Well, for the last 200 years. So we're getting there, guys. But so that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Deandra. Nisha, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Nisha Kua. I'm a climate change coordinator with the Blood Tribe. I'm a sitting councillor with our chief and council. Prior to that, a few years ago, I was hired on as a climate change coordinator. And then before that, I had gotten my degree in environmental sciences from the U of L. So
All right, I have like 2 million tabs open because I'm one of the tab hoarders. Like every 2 weeks, my computer will shut down or crash and they'll all disappear. And it's like being freed, even though I won't do it for myself. My name is Nisha. I am just finishing up my 2-year term as the City of Edmonton's Poet Laureate. We just introduced a new one. She starts July 1st. Her name is Titi Lope. If you don't know her work, she's really great. I've been working as a freelance artist for about 3 years now. And before that, I worked in governance. I worked in municipal politics for 3 years. And I went to the U of A doing a BCom focusing on business law. So kind of a varied background. You might kind of wonder why I ended up in poetry or what really led me to that. Really, I just reached a point where, you know, you hear young people talking about these things that they want to do, these dreams that they have. And I got really tired of hearing people talk about things they were going to do when they retired. You know, it made me really sad that we were going to be waiting years and years for these things to happen. And one of those things for me was to write a book. And so I'm really excited to say, and I don't like promoting it, but this book came out April 1st of this year. And so it took like a really long time from when I went full-time freelancing in 2018 to 2021 to actually like finish that process, get it out there, put it out into the world. But that whole process, I thought I would be doing it part-time, you know, as I worked other jobs. I've been able to stay in the nonprofit art sector since then, and it's been really wonderful and rewarding. And now I'm kind of moving on to the next phase of my life, which is that I am leaving Edmonton for a brief stint to do a master's program, which was also a dream that I had for many years, that as a BCom student, I didn't think that I would have options to do. You know, a lot of the time, young professionals are told that they can only really do an MBA, but, you know, I'm able to now do an arts program, and I'm really excited to venture into that career path as I'm going to be a mature student with like 22-year-olds, but I think it'll be really exciting. So that's kind of where I'm at and the perspective that I'm going to bring today.
Awesome. Thank you, Nisha. I did also buy your book. I wish I had it next to me so I could show you, but it is a really cool, just a really cool cover. Like it looks so cool on the shelf. I had to pick it up. Okay, so Yvonne, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Yvonne.
Oh, we can't hear you. The volume is very low.
Hi, is it better now? Okay.
How about Kabir? You can go next while Yvonne, you can figure that out.
Sure. Is my volume okay? Okay, great. Hi everyone, my name is Kabir. I use he, him pronouns. I am currently based in Edmonton, and my relationship with Alberta is that, so my parents and I immigrated to Canada from India when I was 12, and we lived in Mississauga, which is by Toronto, which is also where a lot of Indian immigrants actually go when they first arrive in Canada. And then I lived there for 6 years, and then for university, I actually moved out on my own here to Edmonton to study at the U of A. I did my undergraduate degree in engineering physics, which like not even 33% of the way into my degree, I knew this is not what I wanted to do for the long term. But I got really invested in Alberta's energy sector and kind of how it's changing. And I also got really interested in clean energy, and I did a bunch of clean energy policy work with the Pembina Institute for one of my internships. And yeah, that's just been a very interesting journey to explore energy and environment, what that means for Alberta's economy. And that's kind of what I focused a lot of my undergraduate degree on. And then so I graduated last year in 2020, and I was actually supposed to start my master's program. I got admitted to Columbia in New York. And I was going to be doing a master's in public admin, but then the pandemic happened. In fact, I got my admission letter the same day that the U of A had closed down for the first time. And so that's been quite a while, but I actually took a gap year this year, and I'm working with a really cool nonprofit called Student Energy. We essentially educate and empower young people to become involved and kind of exercise their agency within their local energy systems. And it's been a very exciting time to be there, and kind of think more globally about how the energy sector globally is changing and what young people can do to that. But I think that also has a lot of implications for Alberta right now. And yeah, in September, I will be moving to New York, which I'm super excited for. And I think I've learned a lot in Alberta over the past 6 or 7 years. I know this is probably going to be one topic that we're talking about, and I think about this all the time, but we don't really talk about truth and reconciliation in the United States at all. That's not really a topic that ever gets brought up. And I think earlier this week was actually the first time that I heard a land acknowledgement by someone in the US. And as I make this move, I'm really thinking about that and just other things that I've learned while I've been here in Alberta.
Thank you, Kabir. Yvonne, do we want to try again?
Yes, is it better?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Hi everyone, Yvonne here. I was born and raised in Edmonton. No, Edmonton. I was born and raised in Yaoundé, Cameroon. So I am from West Africa. I now live in Edmonton, on Amiskwasi Kaiken, also known as the Beaver Mountain House, Edmonton, located on 36. My relationship to Alberta has been a very interesting one. I think I would definitely call Edmonton home now. I've been living in Edmonton for about 8 years. I went to the U of A and I did a degree in environmental sciences and conservation with a major in land reclamation and a certificate in sustainability. Halfway through my degree, even though I really, really liked everything that I was doing, I realized how passionate I was about building community. So halfway through my degree, I created an organization called La Connectionale. And so La Connectionale is working towards empowering and promoting cultures of people and cultures of African, Black, Caribbean, and Latinx descent in Edmonton, showcasing the talent, showcasing the spaces that we can create to create more safe and inclusive spaces for these communities, but also invite other communities to come and authentically experience the cultures and the cultures and the way we live in a way. La Connectionale, after La Connectionale, I've also recently last year co-founded the Black-owned Market Edmonton, which is helping small-owned businesses with a platform so they can sell the things to and market the things to like bigger audiences and create networks and hopefully move on to other markets. But my biggest focus after graduating has really been working with community and finding innovative ways to empower the communities that I know I can best empower while working with other communities to do so. In my 9 to 5, I work as a youth program coordinator and I help youth that are Francophone access youth between the age of 15 to 30 to access employment when you don't speak English in Alberta, it can be hard to find a job. So we're just helping like Francophone youth, get out there and secure different things and build a career in Alberta. Yeah.
Thank you, Yvonne. And if anybody missed the chat, everyone wants you all to stay here. You're all very talented individuals, and we want talent in Alberta. And with that, let's just jump right into the first topic, which is talent. That was the topic of one of our possibility panels. And I want to explore the idea of settling into a city or a province and what that means to you. Some of you are from here, some of you moved here from far away, some of you are moving away. So I want to hear let's start with Kabir. How do you feel about settling into a place, and what would Alberta need to have for you to choose here?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I've been thinking about this a lot. During my undergraduate degree, Radha, you know this, but I moved around a lot. So Alberta and Edmonton were kind of my home base, but then every summer, I'd kind of go out and explore. So I spent a summer in Malawi, I spent a summer in Switzerland, I spent a summer in Japan. And these were like all part of my degree, which I'm very grateful I was able to do that. And at the same time, I think Alberta kind of served as a great home base in that sense, in that it was, it was really affordable to be in. It had a lot of opportunities as a young person. It had a really good university that I went to. And so I think it really kind of fit really well with that phase of my life. But as I grow older and I think about more so in the long term, also like on a personal note, I'm a single child, so my parents are back in Toronto. And so I need to think about, am I settling somewhere that is relatively close to them, because I would like to, be physically not that removed from them. I'd like to go back home for the long weekend if possible, and so on. And that actually wasn't really possible from Edmonton for me. But yeah, I think another thing that I really think about as I consider where do I want to settle in the long term is economic diversity and economic resilience. And I think that also means to me diversification, especially in the energy sector. I think Alberta is unfortunately, I don't really see it kind of becoming part of the future of energy at this point. I mean, to a certain extent, like there's some like very niche areas like hydrogen, perhaps geothermal, carbon capture, which I think Alberta is doing some really cool work in and really building their niche in the future of energy. But overall, I don't really know where that's going. And sometimes I think about Alberta as kind of the Pittsburgh or the Detroit of the automobile industry before like the late 2000s. And like it's super interesting to look at a city like Pittsburgh, which I think has actually really carved its future in like this high tech space. Like they're kind of the home base of most, I think, autonomous vehicles and like that type of development. They have a really good university again. So very similar profile, I think, to Edmonton and what Edmonton can be in the future. But I think for right now, one of the big reasons I, decided to move to New York was because it has a really good university for grad school for me. I think even just like the way they think about sustainability and energy at Columbia is very like current. They're looking at decarbonization. They're looking at how climate actually relates to economic development and all of these other things. And I think a lot of the other curriculums that I saw around the world were not doing that. But then as a city, I think New York just kind of offers these exponential opportunities. And it's a very different type of city. And one thing that I'm actually really going to miss about Edmonton is kind of the 1 degree of separation. I mean, even just preparing for this panel, it was really funny how I ended up here because I know Sean Collins, who is like quite involved with the Possibility Summit and with Next 30, is also technically my boss at Student Energy. And so it was just like through that connection and through Radha, and Radha and I are like really good friends also. So it's just weird how everyone knows each other. Nisha, we met like a long time ago. Yvonne, we've met a long time ago. And I'm really going to miss that about the fact that you can, just get introduced to anyone and have like a genuine conversation with them. And I don't think big cities really offer that. So those are my thoughts on settling.
Thanks, Kabir. So I'm hearing a lot of you go where the opportunities are while you're young, but where you choose to settle might be more related to where are your roots, where are your family, how can you be as close as possible to them. I would love to hear from Nisha on this topic as somebody who's lived here for a very long time, but is planning to move for their master's for short-term, long-term. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I grew up in Millwoods. We moved from Millwoods to Millwoods when I was in my teens. And I spent a lot of my time after that in the Strathcona area, so in the White Ave area. And I actually live here now. And that's been really formative in my experience of Edmonton, just because it is an area that, although has gone through a lot of gentrification, has also brought in a lot of traffic. It's a really busy area. If you do have experience in the University White Avenue area, it's kind of chaos and has been chaos during the whole pandemic because people are drawn to it, right? There's a lot of foot traffic, a lot of movement in this area. And it's funny because I have traveled quite extensively to a lot of these places that people romanticize, right? Or have good reasons to move to Kabir, like, you know, going to New York. These are places that I've been. And for me, it was kind of important to live in a space and work in a space that had a sense of busyness, you know, that had a sense of accessibility. I can walk to get a coffee, you know, and I couldn't do that in the suburbs. You know, it was a really big deal for me. I can walk to 2 different movie theaters. You know, I used to have to drive everywhere. And so making a space for myself and a home for myself here was something that I did very deliberately. In choosing to leave, I really tried to do everything I could to stay in Edmonton. I looked at online distance programs. I looked at more expensive programs through the United States. I looked at what we call low residency programs, in which you do school from your home and then you go away for like a month and you do like hyper intensive training and stuff like that. Because my artistic practice is also based in Edmonton. It means that all my connections are here. I get hired here for shows or events and stuff like that. And most artists don't function at a higher level than I do in the city. Most of us are never famous, right? And if we're well known, that doesn't necessarily bring in, you know, all the dollars, for instance. My book is selling very well, for instance, with my small publisher. But even then, you know, that means a certain number of copies that would actually probably shock a lot of people for what a good, well-selling book is, you know? And so there's all these reasons for me to stay in a city and build my network here, but also to build my family here. And this program that I'm doing, you know, I'm fully intending to come back because, again, like, this is a city where I want to grow, but also where my career is based artistically. And making the transition to an art sector in a big city like Toronto is actually, you know, starting from the ground up, basically. You know, you have your practice, you're good at what you do, but all of the challenges of marketing and getting into the programs and, you know, getting into word of mouth, basically, which is how I get hired most of the time, is impossible. Like, these are unpredictable things. I really love the Edmonton art sector because it is a very forgiving place. You can really be experimental in your work. You know, Yvonne has done lots of stuff with dance and with the community, and the intersection between activism and art is really strong. And in these big cities, you're often competing for resources. And, you know, in Edmonton, although there is competition always, you can do a little bit of that more successfully. So it's definitely a place I want to stay. It's a place I want to build my family. My partner has really strong connections as an Indigenous person to Treaty 6 territory, having grown up here and was born here. And we want to raise our family with the same type of intentionality, you know, and I say family in like this distant future sense because, you know, I'm only 29 right now, but these are things that we talk about, right? Because it's very easy to move away. It's very easy to leave. You know, there's supports in every city, there's networks in every city. But for me, it's important that, you know, I stay here and I contribute to this art sector, that I try to make this place better, even under many different governments, you know, councillors or MPs or MLAs that I might not agree with. You know, like, it's, if you try to, I think, as a citizen, which is different than what Kabir is doing, you know, educationally, and for someone who didn't grow up here, for me as a citizen, part of my obligations of creating a space that I want to live in is contributing to it and making it accessible and meaningful for the people around me.
Thank you, Nisha. It sounds like for you, you've developed a strong community here. You are connected to this city, to this province, artistically, creatively, to this land in lots of different ways. So I'm glad to hear that you do see yourself long-term here. Let's hear from Yvonne, who moved here from another continent. And you've also, like, you've built your roots here, you've built a strong community here. What is your perspective on this?
Yeah, so I am likely going to be echoing a lot of what Nisha said, but with a different perspective. For me, so we moved here about 8 years ago, and even though my parents have been here on and off, they aren't really staying here, and even though they've always been there to support, I would say that I've been taking care of myself probably since I was like 16, 17 when we moved here. So I've been doing everything on my own. And so as I've built La Conexiona and as I've built, well, actually co-built, because any of these initiatives that I've done, there are always so many other people behind them that are actually like either leading or I am following. So as I've built these things, I've been realizing how it is so important, especially for immigrants and settlers, to have a place to find community, especially the younger you are. And so for me, the idea of staying in Edmonton, the idea of staying in Alberta, or let's say Western Canada as a whole, is really how do I create something that the next Ivan will be able to benefit from? Because I wish so many things that I know today that I learned, I wish I had mentors, I wish I had people, I wish I had a community to kind of like foster that and like, like walk me through all those things. So I saw in the comment section some, I think it was Mara that says live local, think global. So with La Conexión or these initiatives, I'm like, I'm living local. I want to create these spaces and these platforms for people that are here local. But at the same time, I'm always thinking immigration is going to keep happening. We are going to keep seeing an influx of African, Black, Caribbean, Latinx people, of just like people of immigrants coming to Alberta. And so I want when those people come that, like Alberta is super lame. No, we will get you to dance like you were dancing in Ghana. We'll get you to dance like you were dancing in Cameroon, and we are going to do that locally because there are so many other amazing things in this province that are getting like looked over. Just example is like being able to just go to the mountains, go skiing, the mountains, the outdoors. There are all these different benefits that we need to that I think, when we think about like bigger cities like Toronto and Montreal, which I love these places, but for me, I have a spirit of a builder, and I'm consistently looking at like how do I. That's all that may be already happening there, and even when I see what's happening there, I feel like they didn't necessarily build the right foundations. And I'm like, how do we make sure that we can build those foundations here in Edmonton, in Alberta, so that like we create a third place, we create a third home for everyone that may not feel like they have one yet. So Edmonton is definitely, Edmonton, Alberta in general, is definitely a space where I see myself growing and I see myself keep building and keep making connections. And so when I look at settling right now is because I've built the community here. I have friends, I would say that I even call them family. And I think because I'm a settler and that my parents don't really live here, I don't have like that community that I built is almost as stronger as whatever other city could offer me, because that is such I'm a social person, and I think that is things that hold me together. And yeah, community is like I live for it.
Thank you, Yvonne. That's so awesome. There's so many different perspectives here. For you, you saw something, you saw a gap here in Alberta, you saw something that was missing, but you saw it as an opportunity. And that's how you founded your group to kind of fill that gap and make this space more welcoming for your community that might move here to Alberta, so that in the future, Alberta might already have a community for some of these newcomers. That's super cool. Deandra, let's hear from you as somebody who kind of already has the roots here, has also like lived here for a very long time. What is your perspective on this?
Thank you. Yeah, listening to the different perspectives, it's interesting to me that it's all about being in a big city and coming to a big city and settling in a big city. However, Alberta is much more than just Edmonton. And then so a little personal story about me. When I was in school, of course, like Kabir, I would go do different opportunities for the summer. And my last summer before I finished my Lethbridge College degree or diploma, I went to Manitoba to the PA. I did forestry for a summer. And within that, there was an opportunity to apply for a higher position. And I applied and initially they said, well, when you come back next year, we'll reopen the competition, because I wanted to finish my diploma and then go back home. I'm in school, and then they call me and said, you know what, we want you, when you're done your diploma, you have a job here. And it was like high paying, and it was like right out of school. I mean, you never get that, right? And I was like just really shocked and like really just grateful. And it was a 12-hour drive away, because during long weekends, like it was a 10 and 4 shift. So I know it's a 12-hour drive because I made that drive every other week. It was horrible. But then come January, February, I had just realized like my grandparents were elders. My family was all here. I couldn't do it. So I had to call, I had to let them know that, you know, no matter what the opportunity, I was very grateful for it, but just my home was here, my roots were here, my family was here. So then moving forward from that, my plan had included to become a teacher after I finished my environmental sciences. So I went to university, I finished my EnviroSci. And within that, I had been able to provide teaching opportunities to different schools, to different youth groups. When I was working in Waterton with the Earthwatch program, we would have groups from kind of high school come out. So I was able to hang out with them for like 2 weeks. And for me, it was important to try and inspire them to understand that there's opportunities in the sector. In the environmental sector. And you know what, in the sciences, it's lonely. It's lonely being the only First Nation in the class. It's lonely being the only First Nation out in the field, you know, with all these non-Indigenous people who, to them, science is just about measuring. It's just about gathering the data. But to us as Blackfoot people, as needs it to be, it's so much more holistic than that. But that took, for me, my Western education, and then going back to my community to learn about my Blackfoot traditional ecological knowledge and being able to braid that together in a holistic way. And that's how I'm able to view things and view these perspectives. And it's always a journey. You're always learning something. You know, I was a plant nerd, and now I want to really support like community functions. What does that look like, and what does the community want? And I'm always trying and push our communities to include the youth, to include the children. You know, traditionally it was the women who stayed at the camps with the children and with the elders, and they're the ones who taught the children the language, and they're the ones who taught the children the important aspects of being on the land, the important aspects of balance, while it was the men who went off on war raids, it was the men who went off to go, you know, hunting, and, you know, to go do the buffalo jumps, right? And even those were a whole community thing. So bringing that back to where we are now, and what I had mentioned earlier, the struggles that we face within our community, our youth are hit, you know, wow, they're struggling. You don't see success very often, but you do see it, and it's inspirational. And that's what I think is really important to note with all of you who are coming, who are going, who are staying, who are leaving. Teach, like Yvonne mentioned, mentor. You know, our kids, my kids really need that, really need you. In the schools, like Nisha, you mentioned you do performing for different schools. That's amazing, and the kids must love you. You know, keep doing that. They need that. They need to know that people like you care, that people like you are supporting them and encouraging them, and you got their backs. Because a lot of the kids on First Nations reserves, they don't have that. They don't even have that from their own families. They need that. So that's important for talent for me. Like, yeah, attracting talent is really good, but you know what? We have a lot of potential talent here within Alberta itself, on the First Nations, within the rural communities, you know, within the ghettos, within all these different neighborhoods, and these, you know, those who are socioeconomically struggling lower on that ladder. We have that talent. How are we inspiring it? How are we teaching it? How are we cultivating it and helping them grow and learn the opportunities that they can go somewhere, you know, that they can go and get higher paying jobs in Toronto or Vancouver. You know, they don't see those So how are we inspiring that? And that's kind of how I see this conversation needing to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deandra. I think you bring up a very important point. We talk about bringing talent in here, keeping talent in here, but I think there is a huge group of marginalized individuals that are talent that we need to be nurturing and inspiring. And thank you very much for that. So it looks like our breakout rooms are closing in about 30 seconds. So I will leave it at that. Thank you all for coming and joining this panel. Thank you to the panelists for joining us. That was really, really insightful, and I hope I'll see you around the rest of the summit.